Now we'll move to our last objective, which is to refine our 2D part layout, to break these larger pieces down to fit on a page, or to connect the strip parts up to make a piece as large as possible, again still maintaining within our page boundaries. So we'll start with some of the easy pieces, easy parts, like this strip right here. What we're going to want to do is use our rotate function. A lot of times on these long strips we'll be kind of considering it on the diagonal on our page layout to see just exactly what we can fit on the page. We're also going to be doing things like connecting up any small edges that we can in order to be able to minimize the amount of small tabs that the assembler would have to glue together when putting the paper together. So here we tried something out. We see that we've got some overlap on a different piece when we do that, so that connection isn't viable. So let's try something like joining that guy up, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So as we're going through and doing this, we want to maintain our symmetry and consistency from side to side. So obviously these sections are too large, or these parts are too large to fit on a page. I'm going to take this guy, rotate him here, cut there so that that fits on the page, and do the same thing on the other side. Now this too overlaps the page. Going back to what I said previously, we want to offset the open edge on the end of our strip from the open edge on the adjacent strip. So if I see here, if I disjoin that guy, we have this open edge and open edge. We really want that open edge on this piece to be here or further down on our strip. So we'll connect that back up. We're actually going to make it here. So now if we disjoined here and connected this guy up, we'd have this offset opening, just like, again, if you think about how bricks are laid on a brick wall. So I'll Control Z and undo some moves there. Do the same thing on that side. And so if we go ahead and select that piece, that part, we see what we have is those strips that are coming down here, turning and folding back up. Again, going from front to back, folding around and going back to the front. So we've got our multi-strip, fairly large piece that fits onto our page. Then we have to go back and clean up the smaller pieces that we've now created, and we do the same kinds of things. We're going to test out our selection. We have a bit of overlap there. What that is this, where it's turning this corner here. These are pretty close, but I'm going to undo that because I don't want that slight overlap to be there. I'll try to connect that up there. That works pretty good. And when I do that, we're negating the need for this very sharp piece. So we don't have to worry about messing around or gluing that tab if you're the person assembling this paper. So that's a good move to try to do. And connect that one up. And we see here that's a fairly strong piece now. We don't have to worry about making that fold at all. And if I'm the person assembling the paper, we'll glue this seam right down the middle and complete this part. So we'll leave that there for now. We'll actually test out. We've got some overlap. That doesn't work, so I'll undo that. It's kind of a trial and error process to see how you want things to fit. That doesn't work, so I'm going to undo it. It doesn't work, so I'm going to undo it. You could do something like this, similar to what we did down here, but that would require us taking this, kind of centering it on our page. We'd have to probably cut there and there. Again, we've got that off join there. Actually, I think I'm going to leave that just like that. So now instead of 3 pieces or 3 parts, we've minimized the number of parts here. We went from 3 to 2. And we've got our offsets on our parts, on our strips. So those are 2 pretty strong parts. It'll be easy to glue these parts together. Glue this part together, glue this part together, and then glue them both together to make this center ridge on the forehead of the helmet. Here again, we've got these sharp edges. We're going to see if we can connect a piece, connect a part to those sharp edges, and we can. It's this larger part, so we're going to actually cut that there, connect that up. Again, we're trying to maintain our symmetry as we perform this organization of the parts. So I broke that, and I really kind of want to maintain that connection again, because it's a small connection. It's always easier to glue up larger tabs than it is smaller, and this part here is never going to fit on a page anyway, so I'm going to do something like use this fold line here to cut that, and rejoin this up, because I want to maintain that edge. If I connect that there and there, we see that this face and this face are larger than this strip. I'm going to undo all that. I'm actually going to move the tabs right there. Again, it's going to be easier to work with the tabs on a thinner strip than thicker strips. Rotating this, we see it doesn't fit on this page. So we're going to try some things out. Let's see how best this goes together. I cut this, move it there to maintain our symmetry. Click those to bring it in. Here we see when I do this, we're going to end up, this part that I cut into halves is really this curved piece here. When I do that, I don't want to have, actually, how is this going together? Alright, so this is actually like that. That's that curved piece. I connect these pieces. We see how that all goes together. just going to play, see what makes the most sense for putting this thing together. What I'll probably end up doing is something maybe like that. Cut here and here. So I'm going to maintain this piece here, and then I'll just leave this little guy there to fill that in when assembling the paper. Then I can move these rabbit ears to the adjacent page. I want to see if it makes sense to connect up another part. I'll do the same thing on the opposite side, make a cut, rotate this so I maintain my symmetry. So I'm just running through, and again just kind of bringing things in and undoing things to take things out. Now here's that piece, here's that part before that we left alone. It's too big, so I'm now seeing that some of it fits onto this part, so I'm going to bring that in there. I'm going to make a cut there. I'll run to the symmetrical side, throw it in there, make the same cut. I'm going to bring this in just to see what the adjacent piece looks like. We don't want to make a cut here, and we've got a solid piece there, so I'm going to undo that, and now that part is smaller and we can fit it somewhere on a page. So we'll just rotate that. We'll leave it there for now. This part is obviously too large to fit on a page. I'm going to have to cut this small strip somewhere. I'm going to make the cut right there and there. Move those to be symmetrical, and I'll see if I can connect anything to this part to make it larger. When I do that, I still need to be able to fit on the page, so I'll undo that work. And I'll just leave that alone for now. We could leave it like that. Or we can figure what else to do with it. Again, here's another part. So, what this is the opening of the neck seal, and then it's all these raised surfaces. This is a pretty complicated piece, but when we put it together, what we're going to do is make this up. If you're actually assembling the paper, you'd put that together, then you'd connect it up to that, and you'd put that together and connect it up with this piece, put that together, connect it up with this piece, put that together, connect it up with this piece, and so on. So it would work out pretty well. What I'm going to do is I want to make my cut on that strip on as beefy or wide as a part of the strip as I can. So I'm going to make the cut there. I'm going to see if I can maintain this whole thing by rotating it. It's probably going to be a bit too big, which it is. It's not too bad, but it's a little too big. So what I'm going to have to do is cut it somewhere else, and let's see here. I think what I'll do is make a cut there and there. So I'll reconnect that with that, and I've actually going to connect that up. So now we see we've actually cut that from that larger piece. This guy is still a bit too large to fit on the page, so I'm going to make a cut there and there. And connect this elsewhere later. Now I've got a piece that fits on the page. I actually like to leave these right on those, but I don't think that's going to be possible. Unless I were to do something like that. So I'm going to take those off, and that's what I'll do. I'll maintain this track around the dial, and this will be those raised pieces around the back back of the helmet detail there. So now I've got to break this apart somehow. If I bring that in, I see I've got a solid edge there, I've got a solid edge there. I could actually leave that right on that. So I kind of want to maintain this piece. So I'm going to go back, and I think I made that cut earlier. And I'm going to remake the cut. This ribbon is still going to be too large to fit on a page, or maybe not. Oh, looks like it fits fine. So we'll move this one, we'll keep those connected. Again, we're gonna see if it makes sense to connect up another strip to this strip, and it kind of doesn't look that way. Still got to deal with this guy. So we've dealt with everything down here. Let's take a look at this big dog here. If I rotate this like so, we can see this strip is going to fit on the page, and we're going to have to make a cut on this thicker piece in order to be able to section this off. I'm going to try this out. So we'll do the same thing on the other side of the larger part. Still got this part that's too large. We're going to cut it right down the middle, bring in this part, and here we see we're going to have an open edge here, adjacent to an open edge there. So I'm going to undo this, undo that, and really what that, bring it in this way now, that's really that. And so this is such a large piece, what I'm actually going to end up deciding to do is I'm going to cut this there and there, connect that up so that we've got this open edge between these parts and a solid edge between that one. I'm going to undo that just to move those back. I'm going to leave it like this. I think it's going to be a stronger connection. And then I can actually go back and consider these and see if it makes sense to connect it up somewhere else. Just kind of running through my options, and I kind of like that one. It's probably not going to work because the piece is, now it's too large that way, but I like that, and I've got some pieces here, I've got some strips here that are pretty thick, so I'm going to move this so I can keep that piece that I just added, and I'm going to break that guy. And see if I can move that part that I just broke off somewhere else. So I bring that in, I bring that in. That looks pretty good. I've connected two smaller pieces to make a larger one. Here we see we've got a sharp edge. We'll see if it makes sense to bring in a different piece or different part to negate that sharp edge, and this does the trick. But it means, forces us to break this somewhere. So I'm going to break those apart again. See if there's somewhere else I can stick those guys. So I throw them on this larger piece that we still have to deal with. Solid piece, undo, undo. We're going to break it there. We're going to have those solid pieces surrounding these open pieces. That we could do, yeah, that's going to fit. There's not much we can do to join another piece apart to this strip. On either side, it looks like we could maybe do something like with that big dog. I'm going to undo. That part's going to be too big, but I'll take this, make a cut there, make a cut there, connect these up, connect that up. We got two long strips, and we've made this piece that we had over here, I think. We made that larger. We'll rotate that 180 degrees. We got a solid and a solid, so we can break that in half. We've got a sharp angle. We'll see if we can minimize that. We can do it one of two ways, it looks like. That piece is going to be too long. We'll see if we can fit this on a page. Not quite, but I do like that we got rid of this sharp edge, so I'm going to keep that. Undo. I'm going to do this to the other side. Rotate it. So obviously we have some overhang on the page, so I'm going to have to do something about that. Not sure just what yet. Let's undo this. Let's move this like so. I'd like to cut this here and cut that there. What we end up again with an open edge and an open edge, which I would like to avoid. But I might not be able to in this case. What I could do, gotta find a new home for this guy. And that guy. So here we've got an edge and an edge, and I think I'm going to leave it. Again, I just try as much as you can to offset the ends, but they don't always need to be offset. If you like the design, you like the design. So now zooming out, our last big piece is this guy. We'll move him over here just so we can see the bounds of our paper. I'm going to start with this long strip here, rotate it a bit to see what we have to work with as far as the page size goes. We'll probably make a cut there and there, and we're dealing with And we'll take a look at the small piece. So we could do something like that, but that's never going to work for a page size. This brings it closer into the body of the overall piece. It'd be nice if we could leave this guy together, which it looks like we can. I'm going to make a break there, and we'll actually make a break there, I think. Do the same thing other side of the piece. See if it makes sense to connect this up to anything else. Kind of doesn't. The piece looks pretty solid. We want to maintain this thin edge, so what we're going to probably end up doing something like this. Instead of breaking it here, for instance, we're going to again break it on the section of the part that is thicker. Now we'll see if we can, if it makes sense to connect anything up here. That's a pretty good. So now we're moving the smaller piece onto this part to make it larger. That seems to make a lot of sense. Let's see if we can do that anymore. Kind of doesn't look like it. Actually kind of like that. What I might do is maybe I'll break that there. I think I'll undo this. I think I like it better like that. This would be a nice piece, except it overlaps there. Let's see if I can do anything about that. What I could do is break that apart there, do the same thing on the other side, rejoin this up over here. Don't mind that at all. So now all of our big parts are broken down. We'll go through and see if we can connect up any of these smaller parts to a larger part. These guys fit in here. So I can connect him up there and he doesn't overlap anything. Do the same thing on that side. There's some major overlap there, so major overlap there, overlap there, no overlap there. But what we have is a piece that's not symmetrical. We could leave it like that, but I like to maintain the symmetry. We've got some small connections to make here. Instead of that, I'm going to break this here, make that smaller connection, so that when you're assembling the paper, you're making the larger connection. I like that. Connect that up. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. This is this little piece kind of in the middle here, so that's probably going to be on its own. Here we have these little cheek pieces. It's probably not a lot we're going to be able to do with that, well, except for this. So that's going to be connected up to this space here. We'll do the same thing on the other side. I have to re-rotate that around. This little piece here, I believe, section here is the surface of the, it's either the inner surface or this guy going around here. Let's break that apart and put that there. I don't know if I'll be able to make that work. So that's the larger piece and the smaller piece, so we want to connect the smaller tabs up. When I do that, I might overextend myself and not be able to fit this on the page any longer. It doesn't look like I can. What I can do is break this apart. Down here, readjust this so it fits on the page, mirror it, so that fits on the page. I think I'll leave this like this. The only thing I don't like is this little sharp corner here, which I think is this. So if I were to connect that up elsewhere, I'd have to break that apart. And although this is a bigger tab, I could leave it like this, and this is a bigger tab than if I undo it. This would be, I kind of like this smaller tab because it decreases the amount of sharp edges we have there. So I'll leave that there. There's not a ton we can do with these pieces. They are the recesses on the inner portion of this chin area. Can't really connect that up because it's recessed. What I could do is break this apart and move it here and move that there. You'd be dealing with this sharp edge though, so I'm going to undo that and I'll leave that just like that. That's the recess up there. Not a ton we can do with this, but I want to minimize the amount of these sharp edges, so I'll cut that down and cut that down. Move that there. I think that's a bit stronger piece. See if I can connect these strips up anywhere. Looks like it might be a pain to do so. So these might just have to kind of stay all on their lonesome. This is the nose recess. That'll have to maintain its own piece. This here, we're going to connect that there and connect that there. Now this is that whole forehead piece. We've got some overlap here though. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that out and cut that out. Connect these together. Now that's just that little bridge there. I don't like the sharp edge we've created, so we'll try to marry it up to that. That looks a bit ugly, so I'm going to cut this, let's see, get that out of the way, remarry that up. I'd like to try to keep this bridge together. In order to do that, I'm going to have to do something like this. So now we've got that piece going up there. It's probably a horse apiece how we decide to do this. I'm going to move our tab. Since we can't exactly connect that up, I'm just going to move the tabs to that sharp cornered piece. I'll move these so that the larger tab is the one we're going to make in the reel if we assemble the paper. And that's our little forehead piece that'll probably have to stay how it is. Can't very easily connect it up without creating some issues, so we'll just leave that there. Now what we have is a bunch of parts that are fitting onto our pages. A few more that we haven't addressed yet. We'll run through and clean this up. This is that. We're probably going to leave that alone. That's probably fine. Rotate this. We've got this dial to deal with. Again, I'm going to move my tabs so that they're on that sharp section. Now we'll deal with this dial. When I have these kind of circular pieces or parts, I usually move all my tabs to the outer edges of the circle. Here we got some thin pieces, thin parts that we're going to want our tabs to be on. Actually going to cut that. And move it there so it's symmetrical. So that's going to be those pieces and that piece. What we're going to end up doing is putting those there. So now it's that whole little recessed part. And we've got this guy. Again, we're going to put our tabs on the outer edge of our curved surface. And we're going to, instead of breaking this over here, we're going to break it right there. On the 3D, you're still got your, although it's shaded out here, you can still specify your open edge over here. So we did that just because it's the middle. We can see that better over here than we can with this circular piece over here, circular part over here. Then we're going to connect that back up. And we'll probably leave this connector, well, we'll just leave it like that. So now that whole part is the outer faces of the dial. We've got two parts for the inner faces of the dial, so we can put that piece together and then add it on when we're building this later with paper. I'm going to hit save, and then all that's mainly left to do now is to reorganize the parts to